Things are gonna get crazy!
Most everyone's mad here.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another fascinating episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. I hope you are all doing very well today, because I can tell you right now that this has been quite a week. Not just in terms of entertainment news, not just in terms of the ones that I will be talking about, but just in terms of the news in general. Holy crap, it has been loaded. It has been jam-packed with so many things happening at once that it's almost dizzying trying to go and consume all this information at once. But before we go and do begin by looking into the stories that we will be talking about, there is one thing that I must address that did happen this week that is actually very serious. Now, I know that our minds are still very much fresh regarding what has happened last night, or the night before I have recorded this, with Chadwick Boseman's death. But we must not forget about one tragic moment in America that did happen this week that is very much unavoidable to discuss. And yes, in order to address the issue and hope that something could happen, we must go and talk about it. And it is regarding this. So this is a drawing that you see here coming from a Twitter user by the name of Danny _OW. And basically what I'm referring to is regarding another Black Lives Matter incident. As you guys probably know, you have probably heard about the news related to Jacob Blake and what happened to him, where in Wisconsin, he had an encounter with the police, and one thing happened where one event happened to the next, where it ended up resulting in Jacob Blake being shot down by the police with like multiple bullets in his body. And luckily, I believe he has survived, but his body has been left permanently damaged. I believe, if the news is correct, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but he has been left paralyzed from the waist down because of the repetitive shooting from the police, in which has been witnessed by everyone in the street. Like, his entire neighborhood saw it, his whole family saw it. It was just a moment that everybody felt powerless because the police was pretty much in power taking down this one black guy. And so, a few days later, of course, as you can imagine, there was a Black Lives Matter protest that did occur. And it's the same ones that you have seen throughout this summer, like the ones for George Floyd, for Breonna Taylor, and many, many more. So there was one protest that did occur in America. But during that protest in particular, a 17-year-old white terrorist came in with an AK-15 and tried to shoot down the protesters, and actually did succeed in causing a mass shooting, where he ended up injuring many people and actually killing off 2 of them. And the police did jack all about it. He literally walked past the police and they did nothing to him. Now, a few days ago, he has been charged with the murder of these protesters, but his body has pretty much been left unharmed. In fact, for several days, there was nothing that happened to him. He managed to go back home to sleep in his bed like nothing has ever happened. And I'm not going to be naming this individual. I kind of forgot what his name is. It's like Kyle something, but I'm just going to refer to him for what he truly is: a white terrorist. Now, as you can see right here, if this is not a perfect example of systemic racism that's currently happening in America, then honestly, I don't know what it is. Or I don't know what is. Now, of course, also what happened this week, you may have heard that there was the Republican National Convention. And of course, just like what every Republican politician does, they constantly lie to the people with false truths and false promises of whatever they want to hear, especially coming from Donald Trump. But probably the biggest lie that has ever been told is from Nikki Haley stating that America is not a racist country. Now, everyone knows, every mentally functioning human being knows for a fact that this is not true. In fact, I would even double down on that and say that America is currently a white supremacist country. And what has happened with the comparison of what happened to Jacob Blake and the white terrorists is a perfect example of that. And this is exactly why people say Black Lives Matter. This is why people would make these protests throughout the whole summer to go and call out the action of the police, and why there must be action that needs to be made, why action must be done, and why the police are viewed as the bad guys, and why nobody should go and support the police. Blue Lives Matter and saying crap like that is indeed a racist action. Anyone who says that is indeed racist. It doesn't matter who they are or no matter how many black friends they have. If they support the police over Black Lives Matter, yes, it does make them racist. And not only does it prove more of what Black Lives Matter is trying to say, that not only do we need a police reform to take down the systemic racism on top of trying to do something about police brutality so that the cops can be held accountable for their actions, but on top of that, this is also a prominent example of why there must be gun reform in America. Keep in mind that with this white terrorist, the kid is literally just 17 years old. He's not even allowed to have that gun. It's actually illegal for him to have that gun. In fact, nobody in America should ever have that freaking gun in the first place. Why would you need such a powerful gun like an AK-15? If anybody would have common sense in the Republican Party or anyone that's working in politics in America, then they should go and take immediate action to ban all forms of assault rifles just like that. I mean, seriously, why is it that this 17-year-old kid walking around with a freaking AK-17, which he's not allowed doing, and yet the police and not even Republican politicians are condemning him to do that? And it's not only something that we must go and condemn the police. This is not only a problem with the police force, but this is also a bit of a problem with the media as well. They are also playing a significant role in order to go and enable this systemic racism. You will find, if you look into the news related to stuff like this, you will see a lot of them that frighteningly try to portray Jacob Blake as this villain in a sense, and they will try their hardest in order to go and portray the white terrorist as an innocent little kid to try to go and soften the blow, to not admit what he truly is, nothing but a white terrorist. You will find news about how Jacob Blake, it's justifiable that he should be shot down and be riddled with bullets in his body because apparently he had a knife on him. And yet, let's just say, hold on, and even with the case with the white terrorist, they try to soften the blow and try to portray him as a good, innocent little kid by saying but he's an aspiring cop. He wants to be a cop in the future. And before he would go out shooting, he would go and try to clean up some graffiti. Well, if that is the case, let's say any of that is actually true, then why is it justifiable for the cops to go and shoot down Jacob Blake and yet do nothing with the white terrorist? And why isn't the media calling him out for that? Why aren't they calling him a terrorist? This is because that's all he is. It's nothing but an evil, twisted terrorist that is fueled by the hatred of Donald Trump and the far right to go and apply white supremacy, to normalize racism in the country, to make it view racism and white supremacy is a patriotic thing. It's the American way for white people to be the dominant race in America. Like, that's essentially their jobs. That's essentially what they've been trying to do in recent years. In fact, the actions of this white terrorist is pretty much the exact same thing as every other, or at least the grand majority of all the terroristic acts that has happened in recent years. All caused by conservative white men that are fueled by their love for Donald Trump to go and kill people in the name of white supremacy. And for both the police and the media, the only reason that they're not condemning this kid, not treating him the way that he should be, mainly and only because of the color of their skin. And this pretty much proves why the issue of Black Lives Matter should not be related to an issue regarding politics. This should not be considered a political issue. I have talked about this in the last episode, where I have indeed stated that human rights should not be a subject of politics. It shouldn't be something that is based on someone else's opinion. You can't take something like human lives and human rights and subject to that as just nothing but a matter of opinion if you think like, oh, this person should have more rights than me, or like, oh, like equal rights should not be a matter of any form of opinion. It should be a matter of fact that everyone should have rights regardless of the color of their skin, their gender, their sexual orientation, their religion, or anything like that. They should all be equal, period. Okay? It should not be a matter of opinion. So that's the thing. It should be treated as facts. And that's why it should be a fact that everyone should go and support Black Lives Matter, or else anything that would be otherwise would count as racist. So at the end of the day, this is a true example of why Black Lives Matter is not a matter of politics. It's not an issue of the left versus the right. It's not even an issue about black people versus the police or anything like that. This is about the people versus far-right branded white supremacy. So if you would go and say Black Lives Matter, then you are saying that you support equal rights. You support the lives of people. You have empathy for other people's lives, for human lives of others, regardless of who they are, because people are people after all. And anything that would say otherwise, like if you say Blue Lives Matter, or you support the police, or you would go and heavily criticize the Black Lives Matter protest, is nothing but racism. It's enabling white supremacy. Even being silent about the subject whatsoever is being complicit to white supremacy. Even if you're desperately trying to avoid the subject, if you're trying to hide in your little corner to say nothing at all about the subject, you want to try to avoid it, or even if you want to go and tell people stop talking about politics or whatever, that is enabling white supremacy, and that makes you the enemy of the people. So at the end of the day, you are left with one of two choices. It's either you say Black Lives Matter, or you would say you support white supremacy. Which one are you going to say? Okay, so now with that said, that's just something that I need to go and address, because this is a very serious issue that has to be called out upon. And I know there are plenty of charities that you can go and support Black Lives Matter, but I think the most important thing we got to do is to speak out against white supremacy and keep saying Black Lives Matter, mainly because it is a way to go and keep it up as a main issue until something is done, until we can actually see consequences to the actions of the police force, and that we can actually see systemic racism and white supremacy be dismantled in America and everywhere else in the world. Okay, so with that said though, I think it is time that we are actually going to go into the news now, shall we? So I would like to go into the chat wall, and I would like to ask you all, are you all ready for this episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast now? Are you ready, folks? Let me hear it. And someone asked me, do you think Black Panther should be a symbol of Black Lives Matter? In a way, yeah, absolutely. Like, I think that's also a major role onto why people are mourning for the loss of Chadwick Boseman. Like, this is why you see people are sad about it. But anyways, that's another subject. Like, I've already put in my fill on that. But yes, okay, so I see that everyone is ready. People have already hyped themselves for this episode. That's great to hear. So now, with that said, it is now time. We are gonna go and get things started. And the first thing that I would like to go and talk about is going to be regarding the Powerpuff Girls. And I understand that for many people, they're always a little iffy when it comes to reboots, especially with the Powerpuff Girls, considering that they had recently gotten a bit of a, okay, maybe this is a bit of an extreme term, but a traumatic experience with the 2016 reboot. Not to say that it was offensive or, like, the worst thing ever, but it's just, let's just say it's one of the reasons why you see many people not trusting animated reboots nowadays. But yeah, essentially, like, whenever you would hear the Powerpuff Girls coming back to television, it's not necessarily a news that even fans would be excited about it. Like, everybody would be a bit on edge and a little bit uneasy. However, it looks like the Powerpuff Girls want to have another shot to go and have a reboot. But in this case here, it's going to be a little bit more different than you would expect. Number one being the fact that it's not going to be animated. Yes, it is true, folks. The Powerpuff Girls is going to be coming back on television in live action. In other words, we are indeed getting a live action reboot series of the Powerpuff Girls, and this is going to be brought to us by the CW. And the funny thing with the CW is that they have a bit of a niche with taking some popular properties and try to go and make them a little bit more different, a little bit more risque, more adult, more edgy, in a sense. And this is no different with what they want to do with this Powerpuff Girls reboot. Now, I'm going to go and read from my source here on Variety, in which it states over here, in the updated version of the series, the titular superheroes are now disillusioned 20-somethings who resent having lost their childhood to crime fighting. Will they agree to reunite now that the world needs them more than ever? And we already got a few people that are going to be in charge of the project, some people that are going to be working on this. We do have writers and executive producers Heather Regnier and Diablo Cody, on top of a few other executive producers as well, including Greg Berlanti, Sarah Schechter, and David Madden, who are going to be working on this project. And so far, that seems to be the only thing that we really know with this project in particular. It has only been announced so far. We don't have any news regarding who's going to be among the cast. We don't know a release date or anything like that. We just know that when it comes to the Powerpuff Girls reboot, it's going to be coming on the CW, and that's it. And currently, they're just working on that, so chances are we don't know if we're going to be seeing this sometime like maybe much later in either 2022 or 2023, depending if the pandemic can ease down during that time, because you never know. But anyways, going back with this news, I will admit that I remember when I first saw this news, like when it first popped up, I looked at this and I thought like, no, this can't be. I mean, like, at first, it sounds like an idea that's just absolutely stupid, and it's almost something like you would expect this to be some kind of parody on Saturday Night Live, like, with the amount of, like, edgy, dark, gritty cartoon reboots that they are trying to do, or, like, live-action reboots based on cartoons that they are trying to do. Like, you would expect something like this would come out of something like, either as a Robot Chicken sketch, or something from Saturday Night Live that they would do. It sounds absolutely ridiculous, because in a way, well, I'm just gonna say right now, like, technically they did not state that it is gonna be a dark, gritty Powerpuff Girls reboot. It's just from the sound of the plot line and the fact that it is coming from the CW that makes it sound like dark and gritty. Like, honestly, I look at this and it feels like it's the Powerpuff Girls with the mentality of Zack Snyder from last week. Like, you may remember last week when Zack Snyder attacked this one film critic, which pretty much open the floodgates for his fans to go and attack to attack that critic as well. And then because Zack Snyder said like, well, my movie isn't gonna be your typical Saturday morning cartoon. This thing is going to be for grown-ups. And that's what it feels like with this Powerpuff Girls reboot, with what they're trying to do. It's a Powerpuff Girls reboot for grown-ups. This is gonna be the dark and edgy one that adults are gonna like. It's not gonna be like the stupid kiddie version that's all cartoony and stuff. We're doing it for the adults. This is dark and edgy. You know, like that kind of crap. So that's why, at first, it really does sound absolutely stupid, and especially the fact that you're taking the frickin' Powerpuff Girls and try to make it dark and edgy and make the girls themselves adults. Like, it's honestly pretty hard to imagine how you're gonna take that and try to make it more dark and more mature at the same time. Especially, like, when you do think of the roster of villains, a lot of them, you gotta admit, they are pretty goofy. Like, I will admit that there are some that you can imagine that they can have, like, a good dark adult twist to them. Like, whether it be the Gangrene Gang or Sedusa or maybe a princess as well. But then, like, you would also get some, like, fuzzy lumpkins. And especially the main villain, Mojo Jojo. Like, you realize this is a show in which the main villain is actually this green monkey with a giant brain. Like, how the fridge are you gonna take that seriously? I don't know, I feel like it's gonna be pretty tough to do. Now, this is not to say that you can't take Mojo Jojo seriously, but it's more in the context of the Powerpuff Girls where, like, often it can be more comical and lighthearted, but if you're expecting me to take something like Mojo Jojo very seriously, I don't know, good luck with that. You need to really put in a lot of effort to it. However, with that said, though, I will say that is my initial reaction to it. Now, does that mean that this is going to be hopeless, that this is going to be terrible, and there's no way that this is going to turn out to be good? Honestly, no. There is still that chance, believe it or not, that this could actually turn out to be pretty decently. And honestly, I feel like this is actually stemming from the fact that this is from the CW, in which they actually have a lot of experience doing stuff like this. Not only making superhero series, but also taking cartoon properties and turn them into dark and gritty live action series. Case in point, take a look at Riverdale. Now, in concept, that is probably one of the dumbest things you possibly have ever heard. I mean, keep in mind, we're talking about taking the Archie comics and turn that into a dark gritty series. A dark gritty live action series on top of that. How the fridge does that work? I don't know. On paper, that sounds absolutely stupid. I know that some people could argue that technically we did already got Archie's Weird Mysteries, but even that made a bit more sense than something like this Riverdale idea. But in execution, it actually proved to be very successful. Now, I know that not everyone loves Riverdale and it does have its haters, but it has proven to be a very successful series for the CW with its own prominent fan base. On top of that, they're even expanding upon Riverdale, where they even made a spin-off series that actually does connect to that show by making another dark gritty reboot with Sabrina the Teenage Witch. But then, go and take a look at their superhero reboots. And from there, you'll actually go and find a bit of the same thing where, yeah, you'll see a lot of these superhero shows that, like, some of them can be a bit dark and gritty as well. Maybe not as dark and gritty as, like, what the DCEU is desperately trying to do, but, like, they are more seriously taken than probably some other superhero shows that are out there. And probably the best comparison that I can do with this idea of the Powerpuff Girls reboot is Titans. Now, I don't know if that is specifically CW, but technically what happened with Titans is very similar to the concept that we are hearing right now with this Powerpuff Girls reboot. And you might remember way back, like when it was first announced with Titans, that in terms of that show, like, the one thing that we all remember the most about the Teen Titans in general, if it's not the comics, then it's definitely from the animated series, whether it be the 2003 show or the unfortunately for some, more successful Teen Titans Go. And then, like, you got Titans, in which, like, they decided to go completely 180 compared to Teen Titans Go and take itself so ridiculously seriously, where it does feel like it has that similar tone to something like Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice, where it's trying to be so dark and brooding that it's actually hilarious, especially with the part in the first look where you see Robin, like, beating someone up, and then, like, he gets up saying, "Fuck Batman. Oh, Robin just dropped an F-bomb. This is gonna be so serious and so dark and gritty. Oh, Titans is gonna be fresh, y'all." And all, that kind of stupid crap. And of course, when that was first revealed, when that was first announced, it did get a significant backlash. And there is some backlash as well into how some of the characters look. I remember back in that time, like even how Starfire looked was a bit controversial as well. However, when that series did come out, I wouldn't necessarily say that it was like a masterpiece or anything, but let's just say that the backlash that it received really did cool down, and for many people, it actually did turn out to be a lot better than expected. So honestly, that's kind of the main thing that I feel with this Powerpuff Girls live-action, dark, gritty reboot series, is that I understand that at first, it could seem like a pretty stupid idea. And I do understand the sentiments of fans that they're not necessarily keen to this idea, or they're not necessarily positive to the idea to another reboot, especially after the 2016 reboot. But in this case over here, I feel like the more that I do think about it, the more that I feel like it's best to have a bit of a wait-and-see attitude, because, again, as stupid as the concept would sound, ooh, excuse me, folks, it is not impossible for this Powerpuff Girls reboot to actually turn out to be good, and that this idea might actually be well executed than what many people would believe. And for me, I feel like, okay, like, yeah, as dumb as it would sound, and let's be honest, with a lot of the concepts, like, I remember, there was one time, well, this week, actually, I was on Paleo Steno's podcast, the POS podcast, and I was joined in with plenty of other people that were there as well, not just Paleo, but also Jack's Blade Fitness, Saber Sparks, and Hiroshi, I believe that's his name. But yeah, I was joined in with those boys, and I remember we did talk about it a little bit regarding this Powerpuff Girls reboot, and we actually did talk about, like, the ideas of what they would do with it. And I remember one of them actually stated that the more that they would think about, like, the stupid, crazy ideas, the more that they would actually be interested in checking it out. And that really is the case. It's like, you think about, oh, what are they gonna do? Like, are they gonna focus on, like, the Powerpuff Girls getting into like, weird relationships? Like, maybe, like, have either Bubbles or Buttercup ended up being in a relationship with one of the Green Gang or something? Or, like, show some kind of, like, dark origins to some of the villains and stuff like that. Like, all these different possible ideas. And, like, yeah, they can sound absolutely stupid, but they might lead into something very interesting that could actually work out. So overall, at least with my thoughts, I have some serious amount of doubt with this, but I think I'll have to keep it as a wait and see kind of thing, because you never know if this could turn out good. And yes, there is a chance that this idea might actually work, as crazy as that sounds, and as much as people would want to go and give it backlash. So give some time to think about it. Give some thoughts about what they could do with some Powerpuff Girl dark remake or something like that, and you'll see that it doesn't sound as stupid as it might sound. So yeah, overall, we'll just have to go and give it a wait and see on this. Okay, so with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I would like to go and ask you all, what do you all think about this CW Powerpuff Girls live-action reboot series? Is it something that you guys are very interested in checking out? Do you guys have some very serious doubts on it? Let me know what you all think. Okay, so, let's see. What do we have here? I know a YouTuber named Professor Thorgy that said it's best on how to make, that said it best on how to make a dark and edgy remake, and that is you can make a dark remake to a lighthearted show or movie as long as you can keep the characters the same as they were in the original. And that, honestly, that is very true. But I feel like that's going to be a massive obstacle for something like the Powerpuff Girls. Because if you do think about their personalities, they really are lighthearted. Like, you got Blossom, who's the more intelligent, responsible leader. You got Bubbles, which, no pun intended, is the bubbly, sweet personality. And then you got Buttercup as well, which, like, yeah, some could say is the easiest to make her dark and edgy because she's already dark and edgy, but then again, like, even with her personality that she has portrayed, like, she has a more, like, you know, like, a more tough, like, a more funny, tough attitude that does play more with the comedy and the action as well, more so than it is to put in a dark edge to it. So I feel like that's going to be a massive challenge for the series, where you're going to take these lighthearted personalities and try to adapt them onto a dark and gritty show like what they want to do at the CW. Let's see now. You know, I thought, I thought seeing the Powerpuff Girls twerking around, oh yeah, sorry, you know, I thought seeing the Powerpuff Girls twerking all written by an actual pedophile was the worst Powerpuff Girls related thing ever. That is not true, by the way. Those are nothing but allegations, and there is actually no proof that anyone in the 2016 series is a pedophile or anything like that. Just need to go and clarify on that. But after seeing this, that twerking thing is still worse, but this is up there. I've never seen stuff like Teen Wolf or Riverdale, but I don't think that kind of style fits the Powerpuff Girls. If they are going to go with the more adult-oriented themes, does that mean they're going to bring back Miss Bellum? Ooh. Actually, yeah, that is true, honestly, because, like, this is supposed to be the Powerpuff Girls in the future, and one cool thing they should do, and, like, this is already established by a lot of fan theories and stuff like that, Miss Bellum, honestly, I feel like Miss Bellum should now be the new mayor of Townsville. Like, that would actually be really cool, honestly. Like, as much as I really do love the mayor in the Powerpuff Girls, I mean, like, considering that it is something that will be set in the future, it would make sense if they would have a brand new mayor, and I think Miss Bellum would actually be very much perfect to go and do so. So yeah, like, that would be my comment on Miss Bellum. Like, bring her back, like, yeah, definitely bring her back and give her a stronger role to be, like, the new mayor. That would actually be really cool. And keep her face hidden as well. Just keep the voluptuous body, but have no face. Like, don't see any of her face at all. That would be, like, something really cool and a really nice nod to the original show as well. Let's see, what else do we got here? The Powerpuff Girls has been one of my favorite shows as a kid, alongside Dexter's Laboratory and Johnny Bravo's Season 1. So when I heard about this, I was shocked about the horrendous results of the reboot, like the whole thing with Bliss, Jared Shapiro, and of course, Miss Bellum getting the axe. I did not want this. To Craig Kraken, I said, I'm sorry, I'm truly sorry, and to CW, nice idea, but a la Alec Baldwin in The Cat in the Hat, nobody likes a suck up. But we'll see what happens. Okay, yeah, so yeah, and again, I do understand if you are a fan of the show, like, you would, like, your heart is definitely in the Powerpuff Girls, and you're definitely gonna be iffy and doubtful on this. Okay, let's see what else we got here. Okay, so I'm two ways about this. On one hand, I could see this being absolutely bad, but I think there have been fan fictions who did do similar concepts as this show. I don't read a lot of them, but I'm sure there have been fanfics of older Powerpuff Girls being bitter about their lives. It's not unrealistic for the girls to grow and feel differently and reflect on their lives. If nothing else, it could be fun, cheesy, shit show that takes itself too seriously. Yeah, honestly, you do bring up a very good point that I feel like this could be a case where it can go one of two ways. It's it's going to be hard to imagine that it's going to be right down in the middle, but as it is right now, like people can pretty much see the two extremes of how this could go. This could either break all expectations and turn out to be quite amazing and a great new take on the Powerpuff Girls, or this could be an absolute disaster. So it could go either way, but again, we don't know. And you do bring up a good point that technically this is not the first time that someone would think up of the idea of having this dark and gritty Powerpuff Girls reboot featuring like the girls being older and hating their lives and stuff like that. Like, it is possible. Let's see. I will give this. It's not great, but a direct copy of the original. I will give it this. It's not going to be a direct copy of the original, and we'll try something new. But I just want a new property because there really isn't any purpose for the Powerpuff to be the Powerpuff Girls other than nostalgia bait. P.S. My sister hates Riverdale and just ditched it to watch Survivor with the rest of my family, which is an upgrade to me. Okay, that's interesting to know. Yeah, and that is, honestly, that is very true. And that is kind of a good point to ask that is against this reboot is honestly, like, yeah, you can make some kind of, like, story based on it. Like, technically, the concept alone is fine when you do think about it. But why does it have to be the Powerpuff Girls? That is actually a very good question. Like, yeah, honestly, you can make a great series based on having, like, this superhero kid now all grown up and bitter about his past, and then, like, suddenly has to come back. Almost a bit like a Hancock story. And that's what, and essentially, this is what it sounds like, actually. It's like a little bit if you mix the Powerpuff Girls with Hancock in a way. But then again, like, you look at this and you have to ask, does it really have to be the Powerpuff Girls? Like, can it not be its own original thing? But then again, some people could say that maybe this is just for the purpose of trying to cash in on nostalgia. So, I don't know. I feel like that is a very good question. But, unfortunately, I mean, like, it is what it is, unfortunately. Alright, I think I'm gonna go and read one more comment before we jump into the next story. Call me crazy, but I could see this actually working. The original Powerpuff Girls has a good amount of pretty dark and really violent episodes like Speed Demon, Tough Love, and Bubble Vicious. There's even 2 episodes and the movie where the girls were criticized for all the damage they caused. If they do something with that, this could be rather interesting. Maybe even compare them with child actors like Jake Lloyd. If it turns out bad, at least it can't be as bad as the 2016 reboot. And as much as the last one is a good argument against this reboot, this comment here is actually a good argument for the reboot, because technically it is true that when you do look at the original series, there have been moments where it would go into dark directions, actually. And probably one of the, like, it's just recently that I did think about this with this reboot, that technically what it does remind me the most is that one episode where Bubbles decides to go bad and to go highly violent, where she's all hardcore. Like, you remember the hardcore episode where Bubbles is just, like, full on pissed off, like, just violently beats up all the monsters and Mojo Jojo, and even comes out like, "The Bubbles you do is gone! I'm hardcore now!" I feel like that's this whole series in general. That's what it's gonna be. Every episode, all the Powerpuff Girls are gonna come out like as adult women going, "I'm hardcore now!" Oh boy, but yeah. Overall, it is something that we will have to wait and see, and if it turns out great, then great. If not, yeah, well, I mean, I guess it asked for it. Alright, so, on to our next story. We are going to be staying in the realm of superheroes, but this time we're going to be talking about something that happened last week. In fact, this was actually something at the same time as I was recording the last episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. And what I'm talking about will be regarding the DC Fandom. And if you guys are familiar with the DC Fandom, that was the time when they would go and announce a whole bunch of major upcoming DC stuff, both in terms of video games and movies. Considering that, well, of course, because of the pandemic, they had to close down a lot of conventions, including San Diego Comic-Con, they decided to go and create a virtual convention panel to announce all the major DC stuff. And in terms of the movies, there were a lot that has been announced and did get a lot of mixed results. Of course, we are familiar with the pointless director's cut of some mediocre superhero movie that was released back in 2017 that was a box office bomb that no mature grown-up really asked for. And then there is also another trailer of Wonder Woman 1984, this time with our first ever look at Kristen Wiig as Cheetah. Then we also got Suicide Squad, The Suicide Squad, now directed by James Gunn. That's going to be a lot of fun and does have a lot of promise to be the good version of a Suicide Squad movie. And then finally, we got this trailer. And out of all the things that have been revealed in that DC Fandom, this has to be the most anticipated one, the most hyped up, the one that people are the most excited about. And what I'm going to be talking about, get ready people, is going to be the upcoming movie that will be coming out next year, The Batman. So let's go and check this one out. Oh, hold on a sec. There we go.
From your secret friend.
Underneath the bridge,
Who?
top has sprung a leak, and the animals I've trapped
Haven't a clue.
all become my pet.
Let's play a game. Just me and you. Any of this mean anything to you?
You're becoming quite a celebrity. Why is he writing to you?
If you are justice, please do not lie. What is the price for your blind eye?
The hell are you supposed to be?
I'm vengeance.
Whoa! This guy's crazy!
You're part of this too.
How am I part of it?
You'll see.
Oh, dudes! And that was the teaser trailer for The Batman, in which it will be coming out next year in 2021. And oh my god, I don't know about you guys, but I am absolutely hyped up for this. Honestly, I think out of all the my sentiments will resonate with a lot of people out there. I know, I'm gonna share the same opinion as probably the majority, but I think out of all the upcoming things that are gonna be coming out of DC, the Batman is my most anticipated. This is going to be legit, and this is going to be exciting. I don't know where am I going to start with this, but actually, one thing that I will say that I am going to be excited about is going to be the fact that this is going to be from director Matt Reeves. And I will say right now, in the last decade, some of my favorite live action movies in the 2010 decade is hands down the Planet of the Apes movies, or the recent Planet of the Apes trilogy, especially with the second and the third one. That really was a trilogy where one movie after another, it just gets better and better. Rise was pretty good, and then you got Dawn, which was great, and then you got War, which is phenomenal. Seriously, I highly recommend you guys to go and check that one out. And that plays a significant part into why I'm excited about this. And even with this one as well, not only do we have our first video footage of what this Batman movie is going to look like, and also we do see a lot more of Robert Pattinson as Batman in action, but we also do see our first looks into some of the villains that will be in there, and some of them that are new interpretations. We got we see what the Catwoman is going to look like. Let me just well, let me see. It's hard to navigate to go through this, mainly because, everything, this trailer is dark. And when I mean dark, I mean, it's hard to see through it because everything is in the dark. So, we got we got our first look of Catwoman. We also got our first look into the Penguin, which, even I'm surprised of the fact that this is actually Colin Farrell playing the role of the Penguin, because that makeup job is actually legit really good. And so far, what they are showing us is that, yeah, he is so far going to start things off as this Capone-like gangster. And of course, we got our main villain here, the main bad guy, that's going to be the Riddler, which is an interesting new version of it that has his whole face that is covered, that everything is just hidden, everything is high, he's not showing anything about his features. They are gonna go way beyond the typical look of the Riddler. The one that is not all question marks everywhere on his clothing. He's not in green. He's not in his typical bowler hat gear with his green suit and stuff like that. No, this is a new, more serious, and debatably more modern, realistic take on the Riddler that's going to be really fascinating. And not only that, another thing that I will say that is that's quite fascinating in this trailer that's going to be really cool to see is Batman and his relationship with the police. Because so far, you could tell that when it comes to the police and their relationship with Batman, judging by this trailer alone, you could already tell that there's a lot of bad blood. The only person in the police force who really trusts Batman is Commissioner Gordon. And he's kind of the head honcho of the Gotham police force, and that's why the police doesn't really have much of a say with having Batman to tag along. They say no, but they have to anyways because Jim Gordon trusts him. But then there's also another really cool moment that does relate to that, and I'm trying to find it. It was actually a pretty intense moment actually, where Batman is confronted by the police. Yeah, this part right over here. Hold on a sec. Would it be this part? No, that's just a gun chase scene. No. Okay, maybe not that one. Okay, no. Sorry, I'm trying to find where it is. You guys know what I'm talking about, though. There was a moment where Batman and the police, they were all in a cage, and then yeah, that's Catwoman right there. Oh yeah, this here, right here. I found it. Okay, yeah, check it out. Yeah, there's a lot of roughhousing with Batman and the police, and even Gordon is what the hell is wrong with you, dude? So that's going to be really fascinating to see that kind of dynamic, to see that kind of relationship, to really help things get intense outside of the typical superhero stuff. But then there is one thing that I will say that I'm really excited the most about this. The one thing Matt Reeves really promised with this Batman movie that is something that I feel like has been missing for a long time. Something that we haven't truly gotten probably since Batman Mask of the Phantasm in terms of theatrically released Batman movies. And that is the detective aspect. This is not really going to be much of a superhero movie, but rather this will be more of a detective movie, a little bit film noir per se, because it really is going to be about the mystery and like following the clues that the Riddler has put everywhere. And that's what I feel like is very exciting, is that we are going to have a bit of that mystery aspect. Now, this is not to say that there isn't any in some of the other Batman movies as well, but a lot of them are heavily geared into the superhero aspect. This one will be a lot more detective oriented. And, you know, honestly, this is the direction I wish DC decide to fully commit into. If they could just reject the DCEU, give up on all that, and just go on individual movies and try to really expand them to go into a genre outside of superheroes, kind of like what they recently did with Joker as well, where they tried to do this whole Martin Scorsese's homage. With this one, I'm really excited that they really are going to go and like lean heavily on the mystery aspect while giving us a lot of Batman elements, like giving us different villains that are going to be appearing at the same time. It's not just going to be the Riddler, but we also got the Penguin and also Catwoman. If there is one thing that I will say that I kind of have to criticize, if I do have to criticize on one thing, so far I will say I'm not too big of a fan of Catwoman's look. Mainly because it just seems like, for now, it's just the typical burglar. And, like, the most that you could say is Catwoman is just because of the little ears. Because, like, she's got little extra nubs, and somehow that kind of makes her Catwoman. You know, honestly, I understand maybe in the context of the movie there will be more of a description, and maybe what we are going to see will be the origin of Catwoman, but I feel like they really did hold back on Catwoman's look, where I feel like they should have gotten a little bit more. Like, tell us that this is indeed Catwoman. I feel like they held it back so much to the point where it just feels like your typical female robber, and that's it. That's just my one little criticism. Like, you could consider that a bit of a nitpick, but like, that would probably be the only comment that I would make from there. The rest I feel like is absolutely perfect. And there is one thing that I will say that I'm so glad that I have seen on the internet, and that is actually regarding the fact that I'm not the only one who saw this. But you might remember the one guy that Batman would just beat up. Like, this guy right here.
Who are you supposed to be?
And then, like, tries to go after him. Beats him up to a pulp. Like, I just need to ask. Or I just need to say, I am so glad I'm not the only one who sees Doug Walker here. Like, it's not Doug Walker for sure, and his voice is definitely not Doug Walker, but you look at the dude, he looks exactly like Doug Walker. Like, this is like, I don't know, I feel like this is vengeance for all those stupid Bat credit card jokes, or because of, like, Melvin, brother of the Joker. I don't know, there's just something about it that just feels hilarious and satisfying. And there is also another thing that I feel like I need to point out that not many people have pointed out, but honestly, I feel like on top of that, because of, like, the guy getting beaten up looks like Doug Walker, you then get another shot. Hold on, where is it? Yeah, there's another guy over here who kind of looks like Malcolm at the same time. Like, all you need is just you just need a smaller girl that looks like Tamra, and it would just be absolutely perfect. Like, you would just get the random Channel Awesome cameo in the Batman, in which ultimately it's just Batman beating up Doug Walker. So at least that's just, that's just like all jokes though, but I'm glad I'm not the only one that felt like seeing this guy, and I felt like, that kind of looks like Doug in a way. But yes, overall, I have to say that I am so hyped up for this, and already this is one of my most anticipated movies of 2021. I love Matt Reeves. I love this new detective-oriented direction that they are going with, and so far it really does look promising, especially with the actors that they got. They really do look the part, even with Robert Pattinson as Batman. I am in full support of him being the new Dark Knight, and I am totally excited, and I am totally down for this one. I know it says it's going to be in 2021, but I believe the release date specifically, I think it's going to be sometime in October, I think. If I am wrong, then you can go and correct me in the comments. But yeah, honestly, I am just really hyped up for this. Alright, so, with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I want to ask you all now, what do you all think about this Batman trailer, or the teaser trailer to the Batman? Are you guys hyped up for this? Are you a little bit disappointed? Are there other trailers that you think are probably better than this from the DC fandom? Let me know what you all think. Okay. Just need to clear my throat a little bit. Alright, let's see now. I am excited for this movie. I do want to see how Robert Pattinson will do for the lead role, but I got two things to say. One, did Batman beat the crap out of the nostalgia critic? Well, it seems like it. And two, is it just me, or the bat suit looks like the Batman design from Batman Arkham Knight? A little bit. But then again, like you look like, that's also one thing that I will say I really like about this new Batman, is that you look at the Batsuit and it actually looks useful. Like, it's not just some random spandex costume that they got. Like, this looks like a costume that actually has a legitimate function, including like the bat symbol in there. It looks like something that Robert Pattinson could just take off and actually use it for something. You know, honestly, like, maybe there might be some inspiration from Arkham Asylum, but so far, I don't know. I'm a fan of this new look. Like, this looks like a great new Batman. Let's see. What else do we got here? Oh, geez. This trailer looks hype. Although, I'm not a comic book person, but this looks great, especially having Batman being a detective, which hadn't been seen in a while. Overall, this is one that DC fans should keep an eye out on. Also, it probably won't happen, but is it possible that WB would do a similar virtual convention, but with their animated projects, including the upcoming films like the live-action Tom and Jerry, Space Jam, Jetsons, and a few others? Honestly, not really, because the thing with the DC fandom is that this was supposed to be something that they hyped up and they scheduled and they set everything up for the San Diego Comic-Con, but because that Comic-Con didn't happen, they decided to save it all for this. So really, it's more for it's more for Comic-Con purposes why they did set that up, and why I feel like it's kind of doubtful that we would see something for like Space Jam or Tom and Jerry or whatever. I feel like they're just going to go and release individual trailers for that on their own. Let's see, what else do we have here? At first, I wasn't that interested in seeing this new Batman movie, but knowing that it's not part of the DCEU and it's a standalone movie, I'm more than happy to check this out sometime. However, if I do have a bit of early criticism, they should focus on just one villain. I'm saying that because 3 villains can make the film confusing. Take Spider-Man 3 and Amazing Spider-Man 2, for example. Also, this is nitpicking, but don't we already have a 2004 animated series entitled The Batman? Yeah, but I think everybody has kind of forgotten about that one. And technically, I do understand your concerns. I do get what you mean with the worrying element about having too many villains, too many cooks spoiling the broth, and that's what we have seen with something like Spider-Man 3 or even Spider-Man 2 and or Amazing Spider-Man 2 and stuff like that. And even at that, like with Spider-Man 3 and even with Spider-Man 3, I think they only really had just 2 major villains with Venom and Sandman. And in here, we actually got 3 with Penguin, with Riddler, and with Catwoman. Now, I can debate if I would go and make predictions. If it is going to be like similar adaptations in the past, technically with Catwoman, she can often be considered an anti-hero where she could end up helping Batman out. A little bit similar to what happened with The Dark Knight Rises. So there is a possibility that she won't be a full-on villain in this, but there will be times that she will go and help out Batman in a sense. So, like, maybe we could go and cross her out. But then again, I guess we will have to wait and see with how they will go and handle both Riddler and Penguin at the same time. But so far, from the looks of it, it seems like Riddler is going to be the main villain. So I trust Matt Reeves can go and try to juggle several villains at once. Because that's technically what did happen with Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Because you do have Gary Oldman that would be considered a bit of a villain. A very sympathetic villain, but still an antagonist towards Caesar and the other apes at the same time. And then you would also have Koba as well, who like gradually grows to become more antagonistic to Caesar. So Matt Reeves already had experience with handling more than one villain in the movie, so hopefully he can do the same kind of treatment for the Batman. Let's see, what else do we got? This movie looks great, and Robert Pattinson looks great. Apparently, they only filmed 25% of the movie, so if that's just a quarter of it, then it's going to be amazing. I can't wait for it to be safe to go back to the movies and see this. 2021 can't come soon enough. We need this year to end. Also, the police hate Batman? Good. Batman would support Black Lives Matter. This isn't Batman. It's the Batman. That's a good point, dude. That is quite a good point. Let's see what else we got. Now that's what I'm talking about. Even if this is just a teaser, I am blown away with the potential the Batman has. I was concerned about Robert Pattinson playing Bruce Wayne, but after seeing him in The Lighthouse, I am more open-minded on his casting. This movie seems to take more advantage of Batman's detective side. Maybe it's more so than other live-action versions, especially since Matt Reeves said this is Bruce Wayne's second year of being Batman and is still getting himself established. Yeah, that's actually a pretty good point, and that's going to be another great thing, is that the good news is that for sure we are not going to get that same stupid origin story again and again and again. Like, seriously, they need to let go of that crap. You know, am I the only one that's just sick and tired of seeing Bruce Wayne and his family going into that back alley, seeing a robber suddenly shooting his parents and the pearls going down and all that crap? Okay. Okay, anyways, one more comment before we jump into the next story now. Let's see. Matt Reeves has shown to have a lot of talent with his previous movies, so I definitely trust him to handle Batman very nicely, and I am really liking this detective angle of the story since Batman is supposed to be the world's greatest detective. Plus, he looks so good! And yeah, me and everyone else in the chat loves the scene with Batman beating up the guy who looks like Doug Walker. Yeah, I think for a lot of us, it was a very satisfying thing to look at. I'm vengeance. Now go change the channel and wipe your face off. Okay, so with that said, it is now time that we are going to go and jump on to the next story. And unfortunately, this will be a little bit of a sad tale that we are going to enter upon. Because when it comes to this one, we will deal with someone's passing, unfortunately. And I know that a lot of people are definitely talking about what happened to Chadwick Boseman because, as I said before in the beginning, last night, or the night before I am recording this actually, Chadwick Boseman has unfortunately passed away at the age of 43 after a 4-year battle with colon cancer. And you see a lot of people that are mourning his death. Well, not everyone, actually. Well, the people who support the police more than Black Lives Matter are cheering for his death because for them, that's just another black guy that's dead. But in the case of Chadwick Boseman, it very much is a very unfortunate passing, especially the fact that he died in the height of his career, especially when people have been introduced to him, or people have first fully found him as King T'Challa in the Marvel Cinematic Universe films, especially with the Black Panther. And he is such a great talent as well, so it is sad to see him go. However, I won't be talking about him specifically on this podcast, mainly because of the fact that I know that many other people will have their say upon him, and they will have their piece of the kind words that they want to say about Chadwick Boseman, and honestly, those people out there can do a far greater job and do much more justice than I can. So in this case, I would like to go and focus on another person who has passed away this week, and I don't want this person to be completely overshadowed with all the news about Chadwick Boseman, because it is also very unfortunate that this person has passed away as well, and especially with his massive impact that he has put upon television animation. And with that said, I would like to go and talk about Joe Ruby. Yes, it has been reported this week that Joe Ruby has passed away at the age of 87 due to natural causes. Now, the quick summary about Joe Ruby is that he is known as an animation writer and executive who has produced several not feature films, but has produced several animated shows throughout his time, along with his business partner, Ken Spears. In fact, those two are actually the founders of the studio Ruby Spears Productions. But when it comes to Joe Ruby, he actually has a very wide display in terms of what he has given throughout his career. One of the most significant things that he has done was actually his job at Hanna-Barbera, in which he has created memorable characters including Dynamite, Jabberjaw, and probably his biggest and most well-known creation that he has made with Ken Spears, Scooby-Doo. Now, the thing with Joe Ruby, however, is that he has worked with plenty of other companies throughout his time, both before and after Hanna-Barbera. He started out as an in-betweener at Disney, and then he would have his time at Hanna-Barbera, and then would go on to work with other studios and other renowned animation personalities. He would go into studios like DePatie Freeling, and he would also work at Sid and Marty Krofft. But then the big thing about him with Ken Spears at the same time is when they would go and meet Fred Silverman. And after Scooby-Doo became very successful, the two would go and meet up with Fred Silverman, who was the president of children's programming at CBS. And not long after, he would go and move to ABC, in which he decided to bring in Joe and Ken and have them open their own animation studio for them to go and produce shows for Fred Silverman. And thus came the origins of Ruby Spears Productions. And from there, Ruby Spears would go on to go and create several different animated shows, both some original works, but at the same time, they would go and create a lot of shows that are based on already existing properties. To read from my source here from Variety, it actually states here that Ruby Spears was responsible for shows such as Mr. T, Alvin and the Chipmunks, Superman, Thundar the Barbarian, Fang Face. That is a hard one to say. Fang Face. Okay, there we go. And the Plastic Man Comedy Adventure Hour. But at the same time, Ruby Spears Production also had a little bit of a knack of taking live-action properties, whether they be on television or movies, and turn them into animated shows as well, in which they would go on to create Punky Brewster, Rambo, and even Police Academy, taking those properties and turn them into animated shows as well. Oh, and in terms of the people that Joe Ruby collaborated with, not only working at Disney, DePatie Freeling, Sid and Marty Krofft, and Hanna-Barbera, also there was a moment that he had a bit of an admiration for comics as well, and also worked with Jack Kirby at the same time. So that's pretty much the big thing with Joe Ruby, is that not only was he the creator of Scooby-Doo, but also the founder of Ruby Spears Production. And it's actually very interesting to note about the fact that when it comes to early television animation, usually the most well-known works often comes from duos. Because you think about some of the biggest names in early television animation, of course you would think about Hanna-Barbera, which is with Bill Hanna and Joe Barbera. And then you would also have Rankin Bass as well, with all their holiday specials that they would make. And then you would get Ruby Spears, which often has been overlooked, unfortunately, but has definitely made an impact throughout the 70s and 80s and maybe even the 90s with their animated content for television. And with Joe Ruby, along with Ken Spears, they are definitely key players into creating some of the most memorable animated shows out there, and along with, consequentially, reshaping television animation as we know it, especially with Scooby-Doo. In fact, there's something very interesting that you might actually learn if you read this article from the Variety, and that is actually the true origins of Scooby-Doo. Because, believe it or not, folks, the reason why Ken and Joe actually created Scooby-Doo was actually a response to complaints. Now, complaints? What the fridge are you talking about? I know, but here's the thing. Back during the 60s, during the height of Hanna-Barbera's popularity because of shows like Yogi Bear, Flintstones, and Jetsons and stuff like that, they would also go and make more serious, action-packed oriented shows. You might recall stuff like Space Ghost and Johnny Quest, where they would take themselves very seriously with a lot more of a serious art style that leans in a lot more on the action and the suspense of the whole environment. And you know, just make like a really cool action-packed show with a lot of fighting, a lot of like superhero stuff, and you know, all that jazz, and like uncovering big mysteries as well. Now, believe it or not, those shows were actually very controversial back in the day, because you would have a lot of these angry conservative parents that are going to send complaints to Hanna-Barbera saying that, oh, my Christian little kid doesn't want to see this kind of ruthless violence. How dare you put that smut onto television? You should be ashamed of yourselves. May Jesus look down upon your souls, you know, and all that kind of stupid crap. So, from there, Hanna-Barbera decided, well, they're not going to stop making those serious kind of shows, but at the same time, they will go and try to make a response by creating new shows that will be lighthearted as well. And that's where Joe and Ken stepped in and created Scooby-Doo, in which it's more mystery-oriented, more suspenseful, adding in some spooky elements, but there is also a lot of comedy, especially coming from the main character that is a funny talking dog. So that's kind of the reason of Scooby-Doo. And you might remember back then, that was during the time when Hanna-Barbera would just be dishing out show after show, one after another. Like, it's honestly pretty rare to find a series that would end up getting rejected at Hanna-Barbera. Whenever they're offered an idea, they would be like, okay, sure, let's go and turn that into a movie. Or not a movie, let's turn that into a TV show. And that's why we would have like such a wide and weird display of different shows coming from Hanna-Barbera, rather they be serious or rather they be like the silly little cartoon characters that are similar to stuff like Huckleberry Hound or Yogi Bear. And from there, like, they didn't expect Scooby-Doo to be a big hit. You know, they're just, you know, they're like throwing stuff to the wall and see which one would stick. And not only did Scooby-Doo would stick, but that would be the one that would end up becoming possibly the most popular property Hanna-Barbera has ever done, in which they continued on to create several spin-offs of it, several movies of it, you know, like really turned Scooby-Doo into such a major franchise to the point that Scooby-Doo has now been known as like one of the most popular cartoon characters out there, like almost up there with Mickey Mouse and Bugs Bunny. And there is a bit of an unfortunate factor of the fact that when it comes to Scooby-Doo, a lot of the credit to his creation would end up going to either Bill Hanna or Joe Barbera. And if not them, then a lot of people would go and credit Iwao Takamoto, the guy who designed the Scooby-Doo characters. Like, a lot of people would go and mention these three names when it comes to Scooby-Doo, but not many people would go and refer to either Joe Ruby and Ken Spears. And when talking about their studio, like much later on with Ruby Spears Productions, it's unfortunate that not many people talk about it, because they really are the company that did help bring in a lot of different properties onto television animation. Now, this is not to say, of course, that they were the only ones that were doing it at the time, especially when Hanna-Barbera was also doing it as well. But there really is a bit of a specialty when Ruby Spears would go and do it as well, especially when bringing in live-action properties into animation. You know, that's kind of the funny thing about how people are reacting to these live-action reboots nowadays. Like, you see a lot of people that are angry and sick and tired of all these live-action reboots, whether it be from Disney or, like, with what the CW is doing with the Powerpuff Girls. And, like, a lot of them would suggest the idea of, like, oh, why not take something from live action and turn that into an animated reboot or something? Well, believe it or not, there was a time when studios would legitimately do that. Maybe not for movies, but they would definitely do it for TV shows. You know, that's why, like, with Ruby Spears, they would go and definitely do that with Mr. T or Punky Brewster or Police Academy, or even with Rambo. And yeah, just to say, like, at the time, like, it was really weird when you would, like, nowadays it would be considered very strange to take something like Rambo, which is, like, I believe it's like an R-rated movie, in fact, and you would turn that into an animated series and gear that towards kids. Unfortunately, that was actually pretty common at the time, where you would take R-rated action-packed movies and you turn them into animated kids shows. The same thing actually happened with RoboCop, funny enough. And I will admit, like, I remember seeing the first episode of the animated RoboCop series, and I will say, it's actually quite a delight, because it is stupidly cheesy. Like, this is something that, oh yeah, it wants to be as serious as the live action movie, but no, it is just too stupid to be taken seriously, and in a way, it actually does become a bit of a wild ride because of it. But yeah, honestly, it really is, like, with Ruby Spears, they are a major role when it comes to taking those properties and bringing them into animation. In fact, they would play a very massive role, like, to give them a good big step into really putting themselves into animation, like really making a name out of themselves. And this is really the case with Alvin and the Chipmunks. They were actually one of the first series to actually bring Alvin and the Chipmunks to television and then really grow to become massively popular, because I think after Ruby Spears handled them, there would be more shots at turning Alvin and the Chipmunks into an animated series and then, like, really grow popular from there. So honestly, it's really sad to hear about how Joe Ruby has passed away. I think we still got Ken Spears to this day. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he already passed away. But when it comes to Joe Ruby, he really is one of the unsung heroes of animation, not only because of his creation with Scooby-Doo, but also the impact that he has left with working with plenty of other companies, and even developing his own studio and creating his own series with, or his own shows with Ruby Spears Production, along with Ken Spears. So this is just to say, may Joe Ruby rest in peace, and may his legacy go and live on. So, with that said, yeah. Oh, and somebody has mentioned that, yes, okay, Ken Spears is definitely alive. Okay, okay. Good to know. Thank you, guys. All right. So, with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I would like to ask you all, what do you all think about this news regarding Joe Ruby? Is there something you would like to say about Joe Ruby? And if you have a fond memory related to something related with Ruby Spears, or rather it be like with Scooby-Doo or even a show from Ruby Spears Productions, let me know. I would love to hear your side of things. Let's see now. Joe Ruby was one of those guys where if you didn't know who he was, you definitely know his works. He was responsible for some of the most influential cartoon characters of all time, as well as finding a way to make a tired formula fresh and original each time. Well, most of them. Godspeed, Joe Ruby. His spirit will live on within the Scooby-Doo characters, unless it's the Scoob incarnation where Fred wants to bone the car. Oh god, that is true. Yeah, that is true. That's unfortunately the most character development you will find from Fred in that movie. It's just the fact that his love for his car is suspiciously too strong. Oh god, man, that movie really was a disappointment. Like, that was an injustice to Ken and Joe, honestly. All right, let's see. I literally never heard of him. I always assumed Scooby-Doo was another idea by Hanna-Barbera. I feel sad for not knowing who he was. This was clearly a creative and hard-working man who deserves more attention and appreciation. May both he and Chadwick Boseman rest in peace. All right, that's nice. It's sad that both Joe Ruby and Chadwick died this week, and 2020 becoming 2016 all over again. And was the Marvel calibration with Fortnite terrible timing because the new season came out on Thursday, the day before Chadwick died. The year started with death of Kobe Bryant, and now Chadwick, rest in peace, Joe Ruby and Chadwick. And technically, yeah, like, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I believe, like, before I did start this podcast, I believe there's another basketball player that did pass away. Like, speaking of Kobe Bryant, I believe it was correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's Chris Robbins that passed away or something like that. A former basketball player also passed away, like, as I am recording this, actually. So it is honestly very unfortunate to see that happen. All right, let's see. Cliff Robinson, thank you. Man, it almost feels like forever since I watched my first Scooby-Doo shows, which was 1976, The Scooby-Doo Show, and 2002's What's New Scooby-Doo. To learn that one of the people who helped create Scooby-Doo died this week was quite shocking. Rest in peace, Joe Ruby and Chadwick Boseman. Your works will be remembered. All right, what else do we got? Do we have another comment? Okay, there we go. I grew up with Scooby-Doo reruns on Cartoon Network. I used to think it was by William Hanna and Joe Barbera, but then I did more research and found out that Joe Ruby and Ken Spears were behind them. Joe Ruby will be missed, and he was a talented guy. He also managed to make a successful company with Ken Spears, giving people beloved shows like Alvin and the Chipmunks. I will miss him very much. Okay, let's see what else we got. Joe Ruby was an amazing man with his works on Alvin and the Chipmunks during the 80s. Even the Scooby-Doo Dying on My Hour and Secret Squirrel. Scooby-Doo Dying on My Hour and Secret Squirrel. All great stuff. Especially love when you hosted an episode of Toon Held Back in the early 1990s on Cartoon Network. Address the favorite Dirty Text, Avery and Bob Clampett cartoons. He will certainly be missed, and he was one of the ones who have funded Cartoon Network at the beginning. Yeah, that's essential. Yeah, and you do bring up a good point. This is unfortunately why I say that Joe Ruby definitely is an unsung hero of animation. Well, Joe Ruby and Ken Spears. They don't get as much credit as they should, honestly, and especially coming from who are essentially the creators of Scooby-Doo, there's a little bit of an injustice to that, actually. I'll go and read one more comment before we jump into the next story. Rest in peace to Joe Ruby. If it weren't for him, what would Scooby-Doo be, what would be like if it was just Ken Spears? Fun fact, he and Spears were not fond of Scrappy-Doo like much of everyone else, despite the fact that he was the savior of the Scooby-Doo franchise after numerous of ripoffs, and the Scooby-Doo formula was fading away. Also, rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman. That's all I have to say. So yeah, this is just to honor both great people, and like, as much as we are sad of the passing of, like, Chadwick Boseman and Cliff Robinson, I just wanted to make sure that Joe Ruby also has a moment to be remembered as well. All right. And now moving on to the next story that I have here. We're going to go a little bit more lighthearted. Don't worry, it's not going to be another sad passing. But we are going to be talking about something from Disney. And this is related to a piece of news that at first you might think it might not be much. Because when the news broke out, they were mostly promoting about this one new image that they got. And on top of that, regarding one new actress that they have involved with the movie. And what I'm going to be talking about will be regarding the next Disney animated film, Raya and the Last Dragon. Now, of course, there's this new image that Disney has released, this really nice new image coming from the movie of Raya and the Last Dragon. It actually does look very nice. It looks very original. And it does make me curious to see a little bit more, to see like some actual movement coming from this. I do hope a trailer is somewhere around the corner. But in this case here, like, not only would you get a brand new, not only would you get a brand new image, but at the same time, we also got news regarding the fact that there is going to be a new actress that is going to play the lead. Originally, the lead was supposed to be played by Cassie Steele, but now it looks like she is going to be replaced by Kelly Marie Tran, in which you may recall Kelly Marie Tran is the actress who is most notably recently appeared in the Star Wars sequel trilogy playing as Rose. So now she's going to be the new leading star of this Disney animated film. But among that news, among the list of like news reports regarding like the new image and Kelly Marie Tran, this article here from the Collider actually did point out that there's a lot more to it that did happen for the production of Raya and the Last Dragon. Most namely, the fact that there is a massive director change. Yes, originally, the movie was supposed to be directed by Dean Wellens and Paul Briggs. But apparently what happened was that they got switched in terms of their director roles, where now the movie will be directed by Don Hall, who is a Disney animation veteran with a good amount of experience with directing Disney animated movies. His credits actually include Winnie the Pooh, the 2011 movie. There is also Big Hero 6, and he is also credited as a co-director of Moana. But, much like with Winnie the Pooh and Big Hero 6, Don Hall is not going to be doing this alone. He is going to have a partner, and this is going to be an interesting one because he has Carlos Lopez Estrada as his directing partner. And the interesting thing with Carlos Lopez Estrada is that he's going to be making his animation debut. Not his directing debut, but an animation debut, because previously his works are more oriented towards live action. In fact, recently he got some massive critical acclaim because of his recent film Blind Spotting. But recently as well, he did sign on with a deal with Disney to go and work on their movies as well, and it looks like he managed to get a directing gig alongside Don Hall. Now, some people might be wondering right now, what does this mean for the previous directors? What does this mean for Dean Wellens and Paul Briggs? Well, apparently the good news is that they haven't fully given up either on Disney or even on Raya, actually. Paul Briggs is just going to be stepping down a little bit on his directing role, where now he's just going to be a co-director along with John Ripa. And as for Dean Wellens, he's actually going to be staying at Disney to work on another project as well. And on top of that, it's not just going to be the directors, but also in terms of the writers as well, there is a little bit of a switch up in a sense, where it's not just going to be that one writer. Originally, it was just Adele Lim that's going to be writing the script, in which that was actually Adele is actually the screenwriter of Crazy Rich Asians, by the way. But now Adele is going to be joined by Ki Nguyen, or Qui Nguyen. I don't know. It's I do apologize if I have pronounced the name wrong either way, but I'll just say Ki Nguyen for now. So yes, now Ki Nguyen is actually going to be joining Adele Lim to go and write on the script. And so far, things seem to be well on track when it comes to the production. We do actually have a little bit of a quote here coming from Jennifer Lee, the Chief Creative Officer at Disney Animation, as she states, "As filmmakers, Don and Carlos bring a combination of animation know-how and emotional storytelling to Raya and the Last Dragon, bringing out fantasy adventure to surprising, original, and dynamic heights." They both saw the potential for this film and had a strong vision for the story, especially for our lead character, played by the wonderfully talented Kelly Marie Tran. And no small feat, directors Don and Carlos, writers Key and Adele, and the entire crew of 400 Disney animation artists are making this film together while separated and working from home. And believe it or not, folks, one extra thing that we do have is the fact that we got a little bit of a story. Now, this is just a very short summary. Like, I don't even know what this necessarily means, but we actually got a little bit of a summary of what the plot seems to be about. It states here, "As an evil force threatens the fictional kingdom of Kumandra, the two must leave their Heartland's home and track down the last dragon to help stop the villainous Droon." Now, some might be wondering, what do they mean by the two? Like, probably they mean the two leads. But if I would go and take a guess, I'm probably guessing it's probably the lead character. Oh, hold on, I think I already got this. Sorry, I think I clicked like I already got two images at the same time. I think like what they mean by the two is like you got the lead actress played by Kelly Marie Tran, and then you also got like her sidekick that looks like a mix of like this armadillo bear. I think that's what they mean by the two. Or unless there is a new character that we don't necessarily know about, but that is highly possible. And in terms of the progress that they currently have right now, apparently according to Don Hall, he stated that right now, as I am recording this, they are about 50% complete with the movie. So they got half the movie finished, and now it's just time to go and finish the other half of the feature. And they still got a lot of time since the film is actually going to be coming out in March instead of the originally scheduled November. So, by the way, there is one more interesting thing that I do need to point out, because I know at this point some people might be thinking that it seems like a little bit of emergency, or now they might be casting doubt onto Raya and the Last Dragon, and that would actually be regarding like the whole switch up among like the cast and the directors and stuff like that, where they got a new lead actress with Kelly Marie Tran, where they got new directors, and they got to have an additional writer. They might think that might be signs of a very troublesome production. Now, on one hand, if that would be the case, then there's no such thing as a production that would be going well. But the thing is that apparently this whole switch up and all these additions actually happened literally a year ago, because according to this article on Collider, apparently this all happened not long after last year's D23 Expo. They actually just, here, let me just read that little passage here. From what I understand, this change actually happened shortly after last year's D23 Expo, where the project was officially announced and the first footage shown, and is just now being made public. So this was something that was already established. This was already something that they have already done. Like, after they did their little thing with Raya and the Last Dragon on at D23, now they're gonna go and they decided, okay, you know what, maybe we should do a little bit of a switch up and change some of the people that would be involved, including the directors, adding in a writer, and even switching out the cast, which, you know, I do feel sorry a little bit for Cassie Steele, because technically, like, she did the whole presentation, like, she was just all up and ready with being the lead of a Disney animated film, even appearing at D23 Expo, like, talking about Raya and the Last Dragon, only to end up being switched by Kelly Marie Tran. Like, it really, like, I do feel sorry for Cassie Steele. Like, yeah, it does suck, but then again, there is another side of me that would say, well, unfortunately, that is just that's show business for you. Like, you never know when you're going to be easily replaced just like that, especially when it comes to just voice acting performances like this. It is kind of a harsh reality in the acting business. But anyways, looking back at this now, looking into like how things are going on with Raya and the Last Dragon, even though there was a little bit of that shakeup, even though they had to go and switch things up with the directors and stuff like that, honestly, like, after hearing all this, yeah, I really am still hyped up for Raya and the Last Dragon. And I'm just gonna say, if there is one movie that I really am disappointed that got massively delayed because of the pandemic, it's easily Raya and the Last Dragon. Like, it's honestly been, like, what? It's been, like, ever since Moana, since the last time we actually got a legitimately original original movie coming from Walt Disney Animation Studios, because after Moana, then they would go and just do the sequels like Ralph Breaks the Internet and Frozen 2. Now, I really like those movies generally, but honestly, it would be nice to see them do something original, because that would be when Disney would be at their best. Like, actually, both Disney and Pixar, actually, they both are at their prime when they would go and create something original. Not to say that their sequels suck, because there are some sequels they would do are just fantastic, like the Toy Story sequels or The Rescuers Down Under, for example. But honestly, like, if I would have a choice, I would want them to do more original stuff, because that's when, like, they would put out their best. And seeing this right now, honestly, with the change-ups, it does make me feel a lot more excited, actually, especially with the new directors, where, like, not to say that Dean Wellens or Paul Briggs are not qualified to work as directors for this kind of movie, like, they certainly were, but now with Don Hall and Carlos Lopez Estrada, like, now it seems a lot more exciting, because number one, we got a new voice in animation right now. Like, this is a case where we got a live action director that's entering in the realm of animation, which is always very much exciting to see, especially from a director that has done powerful movies in the past, especially with Carlos, where he has done the critically acclaimed Blindspotting, and that's another, like, very heavy but powerful film. In fact, I'll just say that if you want to talk about Black Lives Matter movies, Blindspotting is definitely one of them, to help you understand, like, what Black Lives Matter really is about and the harsh realities of systemic racism. And then, like, you got Don Hall as well. Not only is he a Disney veteran who has already done a lot of movies that he directed, but he does seem to be the kind that would be perfectly qualified to be a director for this movie, because from the looks of things, it might seem like with Raya and the Last Dragon, there is some promise that it could be action-oriented. And especially with his credits on Big Hero 6, it looks like he'll know how to go and deliver that. And not only that, but also, like, portraying, what seems to be, like, they could portray a bit of a different culture. Like, even though this is all fictionalized, the world that they want to establish, there is going to be a part of it that seems like there will be some influence, specifically on Asian culture or Chinese culture and stuff like that. And Don Hall has already done a bit of that kind of experience of, like, handling other cultures and properly putting that up on the big screen as a Disney animated film, with not just Big Hero 6 in a way, but also with Moana as well. So definitely with the directors, I am absolutely excited about this. And, like, it's a good thing, at least, like, with Adele Lim, it's not like they're taking her away, because Adele Lim is definitely a qualified writer to create some great movies, especially with Adele's previous work with Crazy Rich Asians. So it's nice that at least Lim is getting some additional help with Ki Nguyen. But one thing I will say, like, another extra thing, it might not be as important as the new directors, but still it is something that, for me, I feel very personally excited about, and that is regarding Kelly Marie Tran as the new lead of of Raya and the Last Dragon. Now, I've already stated that I am sorry for Cassie Steele, of course, but when it comes to Kelly Marie Tran, like, I'm glad that I'm seeing her getting a lot more work, because, like, even, like, honestly, I do feel like she is pretty underappreciated, especially with the way that she's been treated with the Star Wars movies. I feel like she's one of the best things that actually did come out of The Last Jedi, and I really did feel bad for her because they barely even used her with The Rise of Skywalker. Like, it's like for some reason Lucasfilm decided to listen to the racist, angry fanboys of Star Wars, and they decided to really shorten her role, where it's almost like her, like, what she would do in that film is almost a cameo. And the thing is that it's disappointing, because Kelly Marie Tran really is a great actress, and, like, you could definitely see a strong range in The Last Jedi. Like, say what you will about what was written in that film, but her performance is definitely great. So it's great to see that she can definitely do more, and even more, like, voice acting stuff for Raya and the Last Dragon. So that, for me, I feel very excited for. So yeah, as you can tell, honestly, with this new announcement, with the new change-ups, with the cast and the directors and stuff like that, it actually does help to make me feel a bit more excited for Raya and the Last Dragon. I'm already anticipating for this for 2021. Like I'm already hyped up for this movie, but now I feel a little bit more hyped up thanks to this bit of news. Like, it is kind of a surprising change, but it does provide some good news as well, and I do trust the team at Disney can actually provide something great out of this. Of course, don't forget to go and mark your calendars for this, because it is going to be coming out on March 12th, 2021, and I do wish the best of luck for the people at Disney, for Jennifer Lee, for Dawn, for Carlos, for Kelly, and many, many more, to go and create something amazing, or hopefully amazing, with Raya and the Last Dragon. Okay, so with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I would like to ask you all, what do you all think about this new piece of news with Raya and the Last Dragon? Does this help you get a little bit excited about this? Are you guys still hyping up for Raya and the Last Dragon? Are you a little bit more concerned with some of the new changes, of, like, if it could mean some production troubles? Let me know what you all think. Okay. Let's see. Agreed. On one hand, I do feel bad for Cassie Steele, but on the other hand, I'm glad to see Kelly Marie Tran getting more work, as she deserves it too. Yeah, definitely nice. I get how you feel. All right. Let's see here. I'm looking forward to Raya, but I can't help but still feel sad with the possibility that we might never see it on the big screen, even worse that theaters might never open again, since the pandemic and virus has cost so many jobs internationally. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, it really is a bit of a wait and see kind of thing. Like, you never know how things are going to be with the pandemic in the future, if things are going to be much better, or if they're still going to be worse in 2021. Like, a true factor, like a true test right now, will be when schools will reopen, and if it's going to come with serious consequences with the pandemic, seeing a lot of the numbers go up, and for many different countries would mean a second wave, or in the case of America, just make their first wave even bigger. So, I don't know, it's going to be, like, that is unfortunately going to be something that we will have to wait and see. Like, I am sure that Disney will release Raya and the Last Dragon in 2021. But if it's going to be in theaters, or if it's just going to be, like, on Disney Plus the same way that they're going to do it with Mulan, I don't know. That's just, unfortunately, something we will have to wait and see, realistically speaking. Let's see now. What else do we got? I'm really excited for Raya, and I like that Kelly Marie Tran is getting more roles, though I bet is a middle finger to Last Jedi haters. I mean, the thing is that Kelly Marie Tran, still alive to this day, is a middle finger to Last Jedi haters. And I'm not saying that it's all of them, but you know that a good chunk of it is just that they hate Kelly Marie Tran because she's white. No, because she's not white. Sorry, that's sorry. Let me rephrase that. But yeah, that's the thing. A good chunk of the Last Jedi haters, they just hate Kelly Marie Tran because she's not white. Like all they're asking is to have an Aryan Star Wars movie, like for all the actors and all the humans to be white and not allowed to have any Asians or black people or whatever. That's just their mentality. Or like barely even women. Like if there is a woman, like make her only the love interest and that's it. Like that's how it is for many of those guys. So yeah, screw them. And I mean, like, it's just like as long as Kelly Marie Tran is still alive, she is nothing but a middle finger to the Last Jedi haters for them. But to other people, to the grand majority of people with common sense, we see her as a great actress that deserves more roles like this one. Oh, excuse me. The spit ended up going in the wrong direction. All right. Let's see now. So far, I'm pretty excited to see more about the film. The image looks really promising, and I'm really glad that Kelly Marie Tran is still able to keep going with her career after the racist harassment she got after The Last Jedi. I don't judge it yet since I need to wait for the trailer to do that, but so far I'm pretty jazzed to see what's in store. I'm also glad that Kelly will get more than 79 seconds of screen time. Yeah, that's how long her screen time was in Rise of Skywalker. Holy crap, just 79 seconds? Honestly, I was under the impression that it was like probably 2 minutes max or something, but just 79? That's sad. That very much is sad, and I think that really is a testament to why The Rise of Skywalker is nothing but a disappointment. Like, there are some good things about the movie. It's not the worst film of 2019, but still, it's such a massive disappointment, especially being the conclusion to the Skywalker saga. Let's see now. Even with the new crew, I have said this a bajillion times in the previous podcast, but I'm still highly looking forward to seeing this movie, mainly because I'm a Malaysian descendant, and the movie has taken a lot of notes from various parts of Southeast Asia. Heck, one of the writers was born in Malaysia, and the name Raya in Malaysian is Malay for great or big. By the way, Tuk Tuk, the armadillo bear thing, kind of looks like Glyptodont, a prehistoric armadillo. You could see them in the Ice Age films. Yeah, probably a little bit. I actually do know what you're talking about, funny enough. Let's see now. Would it be... Oh, yeah, okay. So, I'm a little concerned about the director change, but still excited about Raya. This is the first time I've heard about the voice change for the lead. I thought Tran was added in the cast rather than playing the titular role. Cassie Steele is of Filipino descent, but she definitely looks white for an Asian-based story. Kelly Marie Tran is a Vietnamese actress, so I think I think they are going to avoid a potential whitewashing voice controversy that Kubo had. Maybe, but I wouldn't say that immediately. I wouldn't say because of anything related to the actress's race or anything like that. There's no confirmation as to why. We just know that it did happen. So I don't want to go too deep into the speculation, and I don't really want to go and play with race in that kind of level. So I don't know. So, like, I guess we'll wait and see if there really is an explanation to that. Okay, but anyways, I'll read one more comment before we're going to jump into the final story. Let's see here. I think that switching Paul Briggs with Don Hall and Carlos is a pretty good idea, since both of them have a lot more experience with directing movies compared to Paul Briggs, who was mostly a storyboard artist. And Kelly definitely deserves this role after all the bullying and insults she got from many Star Wars fans after The Last Jedi, and getting a pretty diminished role in The Rise of Skywalker. Besides, Cassie Steele looks a bit too white for a character who is supposed to be Asian. Yeah, and then here we go again, of course. But yeah, overall though, this is definitely making me excited for this movie, and just like with the Batman, I'm definitely counting this one as one of my most anticipated films of 2021, and mark your calendars for March 12th. And so, folks, it is now time that we are going to jump onto the grand finale, and we're still staying in the realm of Disney for this one. And for this piece of news here, we actually got some good news and some bad news. Now, the good news of this is that Disney decided to finally listen to the audience. For years, they have been demanding this. For years, they've wanted this to happen, for justice for this property. And Disney finally decided that they are going to do it, and yes, it is official. Disney will indeed be making the Haunted Mansion reboot. However, there is a catch to this, and that is unfortunately the bad news. As much as people have demanded for this Haunted Mansion reboot, it will not be from Guillermo del Toro, unfortunately. Instead, it will actually be from the writer of the 2016 Ghostbusters reboot. Yes, it is official, folks. Disney has decided to go and reboot the Haunted Mansion to make a brand new movie. This time around, they have hired Katie Dippold to go and be the writer for this feature. Now, keep in mind that this is a project that has just been announced. We don't have any form of confirmation about anything else. We don't know when this is coming out, we don't know who's going to be in the cast, and we don't even know who's going to be in the story, and we don't even know who's going to be the director. All we know is that Katie Dippold will be the writer of this feature, and on top of that, we do have some producers as well, or at least a company that will be producing the movie. It is stated here from my source on The Hollywood Reporter that Rideback, the banner run by Dan Lin and Jonathan Elrich, and was behind Disney's billion-dollar grossing Aladdin remake, is producing what is intended to be a live-action movie. And so far, that seems to be all the news about it. And for those of you who are not familiar with Katie Dippold, more than ever, Katie Dippold is actually growing as a writer in the Hollywood scene. She started out working on television, but it wasn't until the last decade where she managed to get a few movies being written, actually. A lot of them that are mostly... Well, actually, all of them are female-led comedies. If you go on her IMDb page, it actually is stated here that the writing credits that she has, she worked on shows like Starvalence, Mad TV, and even did some episodes of Parks and Recreations. And then once the 2010s have rolled along, that's when some of her movies actually got written, where she got The Heat that was made. She wrote the 2016 Ghostbusters movie, and she also did Snatch, in which is a comedy starring Goldie Hawn and Amy Schumer. So that's pretty much her. That's in a way you could say that's kind of like her niche, is that she would mainly go and write female-led comedies, and yet somehow she's the one that managed to get the part for writing the Haunted Mansion reboot. And by the way, there is no confirmation either if because Rideback is going to be producing this. I don't know if this officially means that Dan Lin and Jonathan Irich themselves are actually going to be producing this movie as well. But with that said, looking into this news, honestly, there is a part of me that's not necessarily surprised about the fact that Disney is reconsidering doing another Haunted Mansion movie. Mainly because of the fact that nowadays, it seems that Disney is a lot more open with turning their theme park rides into movies, like taking the rides and putting them into feature films, kind of like what they have previously done back in the early 2000s with the Country Bears, Pirates of the Caribbean, and of course the Haunted Mansion starring Eddie Murphy. And in this case here, though, I guess they're really trying to hype up, or they're really anticipating for the results of the Jungle Cruise, because you guys know that they are going to take the Jungle Cruise and they're going to turn that into an action-packed movie starring Emily Blunt and Dwayne Johnson. And from there, I guess Disney is waiting to see the results of that to see if making more movies based on their theme park rides would still be commercially viable, especially with the fact that not only with the Mansion, not only with the Jungle Cruise, but there's also rumors about Pirates of the Caribbean coming back. But what that is going to be, we honestly don't know. There are several directions. We know Disney is interested in making another one, and that they're thinking maybe they can. But so far, what they will do with it, rumors say that there's a lot of options. It's either they're going to do a complete reboot of it, It's either they're going to do a Pirates of the Caribbean 6 and bring back Johnny Depp as Jack Sparrow, or they're going to do a spin-off starring Margot Robbie. So those are currently the 3 options that they could possibly do, but there is no confirmation on which one they're really going to go with. So with the fact that they are more interested again, so they are interested in maybe bringing back Pirates of the Caribbean, and the fact that they got the Jungle Cruise coming out, so there really is no surprise that why not also bring in the mansion into the mix as well. And one thing I will say, however, just to clarify that, like, it really, really does depend on how the Jungle Cruise would do next summer. Because I will say this, if the Jungle Cruise next year turns out to be a box office bomb, like, if it flops and Disney ends up losing money on the Jungle Cruise, this project you see here with the mansion and maybe with the Pirates of the Caribbean stuff, they're dead. They're pretty much dead. They're like dead on the water. No pun intended. Like that pretty much tells Disney that, okay, maybe bringing back the idea of theme park rides and turning them into movies and stuff like that, maybe it's not that great. So maybe they would go and reject that. But again, it really does depend on how the Jungle Cruise would do. So we just need to go and wait and see on that. But going back to the idea with Katie Dippold and the ride back producing the movie, honestly, my reaction to this is just, that's how I feel about it. It's just, it's honestly conflicting, because I know that it would be wrong of me to say that this is gonna suck. I don't want to say that this is going to be bad, and I really do hope that my instincts are wrong about this and that maybe this could actually turn out to be good. But honestly, with the ideas that they're bringing in and the people that they got involved, I don't know. I feel like they're kind of repeating the same mistakes that they did back in 2003 with the Eddie Murphy movie. Because, not to discredit Katie Dippold or anything like that, and I'm sure, there's, a major reason why she was even on board is mainly because of the work that she has done with the 2016 Ghostbusters reboot. But you could definitely tell that, judging by the people that they got on board with this, with the producers and Katie, it just feels like they're going to turn this into another blockbuster comedy more so than something that stays true to the actual ride itself. It just feels like it's just going to be another typical bland blockbuster that Dan Lin and Jonathan Irich would usually do and they would usually go and dish out. And even with Katie Dippold, it sounds like the direction that they want to go is going to be a lot more comedy-driven than something that would actually be more horror-based or stay true with the tone of the actual attraction. Not to say that there isn't any comedy in the ride itself. Of course, there are plenty of that. But it's just like you could tell that they're going to lean a lot more into the comedy, more so than they would with any of the horror factors, the creep factors, the suspense of it all. The dark, some of the really dark elements that does make, that really does really give the mansion its own identity. Like, honestly, if I would just tell you, because the thing is with Katie Dippold, if I would tell you that she would be in charge of a mansion movie, and if I, actually, let me rephrase that. If I would just go and tell you that there's going to be a new mansion movie, based on the Haunted Mansion, and that it's going to be written by someone who has previously written a lot of female-led comedies, most of them are just from Melissa McCarthy, it doesn't really sound all that exciting. I don't know, I just feel like with the people that they got attached to it feels soullessly manufactured than something that might turn out to be created out of passion, really. And that's where they're going to fall into the same trap as the 2003 movie. And I think, honestly, a big factor as to why I and many other Disney fans would feel that way is mainly because this really does sound like a downgrade compared to what we would have had. The thing is, if you guys don't know, back in the early 2010s, there was supposed to be another mansion movie that was supposed to be in the works that was done by none other than Guillermo del Toro. He was working hard for a long time to write a script, to write a proper story for the movie. And I mean, if you know Guillermo del Toro, you know the guy is a perfect fit. You know what the type of movies that he would do. He would do something that would really stay true to the mansion. Like, he would stay true to, like, the themes and the tone that the original attraction brought to guests, and, like, he would turn that into movie form. Like, he's already done that with a few of his movies before. Like, imagine what he would do, like, with the mansion. Seriously. And on top of that, not only that, but, like, the dude is openly a mansion fan. Like, Guillermo del Toro loves the Haunted Mansion. So that really gives people confidence that this is someone who was going to craft a movie out of love. And I think that really is the major difference between what Guillermo del Toro would have done and what we have here. With Guillermo del Toro, you could tell that it really is creating something out of passion. But with Katie Dippold and Dan Lin and Jonathan Irich, you could tell that this kind of sounds like something that they want to make because it would make money. You know, it just feels more soullessly manufactured than be a labor of love. Now, this is not to say that Katie Dippold wouldn't make something as a labor of love, and this is not to say she's not a Mansion fan either. Again, I really do hope she can prove me wrong on this, but, like, why bring in a Melissa McCarthy comedy writer to work on this instead of someone who would lean a little bit more into the horror genre, if you get what I mean? I guess, honestly, the way that I feel about this overall, like, if I would use theme park terms, like, I feel like this is kind of the same thing as Journey into Imagination with Figment. If you guys know what I mean. Like, honestly, this whole news really does feel like we're gonna get Journey into Imagination with Figment. Now, technically, this sounds like it could be much better than Journey into Your Imagination, where they would learn the same mistakes from before, but it's certainly not going to be like how it was with the prospects and the promises of the original Journey into Imagination. And it's the same thing with this Haunted Mansion movie. You know, like, yeah, this thing, you know, like, chances are they're going to learn from the mistakes of the 2003 film. Maybe not, but maybe they would. But then again, it's nothing like the promises that we would have with the Guillermo del Toro movie. So overall, I just feel like this news is more than anything. That's how I feel about it. It's just really I'm not, you know, honestly, I don't really feel excited for this because it doesn't sound like this is going to be a passion project that will stay true to the original attraction. This just sounds like it's just going to be another bland attempt of a blockbuster for Disney to take an already existing property and turn that into a conglomerate franchise. That's really all that it feels. And honestly, like if they're going to bring in Katie Dippold, does that mean they're going to bring in Melissa McCarthy as well? Like, I need to ask, does this mean that they're going to plan to have Melissa McCarthy as Madame Leota? Like, are we going to have a crystal, like, are we going to have, like, a crystal ball where you're going to have your female leads, like, wandering around the mansion, and then Melissa McCarthy just pops up, "Hey, buddy, you lost?" I don't know. It's just, I'm not excited for this. Hopefully they will prove me wrong on this and it could turn out good, but yeah, I don't know. It's just, nah. Like, even if I would be a major fan of the ride, which, like, I think the ride is one of the best attractions, but I'm not a fan of haunted houses in general. But the thing is, like, it's just in general, that's how I feel about it. It's just, Okay, so, with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I want to ask you all, how do you feel about this new take on the Haunted Mansion movie? Do you think this is going to be something that would actually work out very well? Do you think this could actually turn out to be something great and might be the Haunted Mansion movie that people have been asking for? Or do you think that Disney is just repeating what they have mistakenly done back in 2003? Let me know what you think. Okay. I always knew that Del Toro's Haunted Mansion movie was unlikely, but the movie that we all want is a fantastical movie with some dark comedy and charm, but an uneasy sense of dread and horror. They're repeating the same mistakes from the Eddie Murphy movie. I feel like they should be given to this. They should give this to horror filmmakers like Eli Roth, Adam Wingard, and my choice being the duo Radio Silence, who made Ready or Not, which expertly balances horror and comedy. I would even write it for you, Disney. Oh my god. Okay, I just got an amazing idea. Okay, this might sound crazy, and maybe it would be maybe this might sound impossible. But okay, how about this? I just got a crazy idea. A Haunted Mansion movie by Blumhouse. Like, imagine Blumhouse taking the mansion and try to make something out of it. Now, I know it sounds insane, especially with the fact that they would have to do, like, a really low budget, like, only give, like, you know, that, like, Blumhouse would be like, you got $5 million, make a Haunted Mansion movie. I know that sounds insane, but you never know if they could actually make it work. I don't know, maybe that just sounds too maybe it sounds like a little too stupid, but that could be something. You never know, man. You never know. I'm with you, Matt. I'm not making any judgments yet, but there's not enough to give me much hype for this. I'm still wondering, by the way, if Guillermo del Toro ever followed through with his version, with his own take on Pinocchio. Oh, buddy, you don't know. Oh, you don't know about Pinocchio, do ya? If you don't know, dude, I mean, yeah, let's just say you'll be pretty excited to see what's going to be happening next year on Netflix, because yeah, let's just say Pinocchio got more lucky than the Hatbox Ghost. I'm just saying. Okay, let's see, what else do we got over here, folks. As a fan of both Disney and horror, I'm very disappointed. This writer has experience writing comedies. For all we know, she could be a very diverse writer and can write a good horror movie. But a Haunted Mansion movie should be a straight horror movie with a little comedy, not a spooky comedy. Let's hope they don't cast someone like James Corden as the main character. Oh god, yeah. That's what I'm dreading as well. Like, are you gonna get honestly, are you just gonna get random celebrities to play as like some of the characters? Like, that's gonna be one thing that I'm sure for many Disney fans, that's gonna be cringe. Seeing celebrities trying to be the mansion characters, like whoever they're gonna get as like either the Hatbox Ghost or the Bride or Madame Leota or the Hitchhikers, or God forbid if they replace Corey Burton as the ghost host. Like, that's gonna be something that will piss off a significant amount of fans. I'm just saying. Okay. With one of the writers of the pretty controversial 2016 Ghostbusters, and the fact that we already had a Haunted Mansion movie from 2003 that was panned by critics, this will probably be a huge disaster. If you want some good news, however, this week we got a trailer from another anime based on a Capcom game like Castlevania, which will come out on Netflix in September, called Dragon's Dogma. Oh yeah, I did hear about that. Well, I didn't have enough information or knowledge to really talk about it, but yeah, I did hear that's another thing that's going to be coming out. Let's see now. Who else do we got here? Yeah, I'll go with this one, actually. I'm very unsure on how to feel about this. While I'm happy we're getting a new Haunted Mansion, I'm really disappointed that they're not bringing back Del Toro. Maybe because he's too busy working on Troll Hunters: The Rise of Titans for Netflix, but I don't know. And correct me if I'm wrong, but weren't we supposed to get an animated series based on the Haunted Mansion? Yeah, that's true, but let's just say the Haunted Mansion is cursed in more than one ways. It's not just the mansion itself that's cursed, but nowadays trying to make a new adaptation is like almost impossible. I did hear at one point, I think Disney Channel, correct me if I'm wrong, but Disney Channel wanted to make like an animated special or something. Like, they wanted to do this animated special in honor of like the 45th anniversary of the ride, and they wanted to get Grim Grizzly to be the character designer. Grim Grizzly is the guy who's also the character designer of the Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, by the way. But unfortunately, that project never really came to be. So who knows? Maybe we could luck out and like the same thing will happen with this, and the project will ultimately be canceled for the better. So Yeah, who knows? Yeah. Okay, so I'll go and read one more comment before we cap things off, and the lucky person is here. This one. This story sounded disappointing to hear. Bringing producers that made the Aladdin remake is something that I don't want to hear, but having Katie Dippold is something I don't think it would be that bad. I know everybody keeps on hating on the 2016 Ghostbusters reboot, along with Miradiz, who put what movie they consider good or bad, but that movie isn't that bad, and I don't think people should overhate it to begin with just because it has female leads. Yeah, honestly, I will say that, looking back at it, I do agree that the 2016 Ghostbusters, this is all this is not to knock against the 2016 Ghostbusters film. I do agree that it definitely is overhated, and I do find it really stupid how people really politicize the 2016 Ghostbusters film. Your stance on feminism depends on how much you like the 2016 Ghostbusters movie or not. That, honestly, I find that to be really stupid. I mean, it's just a movie. It's just a remake that Sony only made in order to cash in on this feature. And I'm not saying that this is gonna suck because with Katie Dippold that she's the writer of the 2016 remake. It's just what disappoints me with her on board writing this movie is mainly from the fact that she's mainly just a comedy writer with not a whole lot of experience with horror that the Haunted Mansion needs. I mean, technically you could say Ghostbusters, but that's more like spoopy horror. And let's be real, folks, the Haunted Mansion is much more than spoopy horror. Anybody who says that, oh, there's nothing scary about the Haunted Mansion, that's a freaking lie, man. Go in the attic and you tell me that there's nothing scary in there. Seriously, dude. But yeah, overall, it's just, hopefully I'm proven wrong on this, but, I don't know. I'm not keeping my hopes up on this. So with that said, that should be it with today's episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast, and I want to thank you all for listening, and thank you all for watching this episode, and tune in for next week, because you never know what other crazy stories might occur. And also, I would like to say to you all that Black Lives Matter, and of course, that I wish that you all stay safe during these dark and dangerous times. So, with all that said and done, thank you so much for watching, thank you so much for listening, and until next time, see you later, dudes!